scientists have found something 13,000 feet below the ocean's dark depths that has raised questions on our very existence. Something that should not have been there at such depths, but despite this, its presence has given us a big warning. Just a month ago, we had heard a lot of news that deep-sea animals are coming out of the ocean in large numbers. Was this the reason behind it? One day in 2013, deep-sea scientist Andrew Sweetman and his team wanted to find out the health of deep-water animals. They had a feeling that deep-sea animals could be in a lot of danger in this particular area. The Clarion-Clipperton Zone, which lies between Hawaii and Mexico in the Pacific Ocean, is now in danger. I will tell you why in a little while, but with this thought in mind, Andrew Sweetman sent his special machine, automated seafloor lander, 5,000 meters below the ocean in this area. As soon as he saw it, he sent it to the bottom of the ocean. The lander reached the bottom. Its mouth opened, and it started drawing deep water inside a special chamber called a benthic chamber. It is basically a tank that captures deep water inside it and isolates it and studies it through the sensors installed inside it. Through this, they had to find out at what speed the amount of oxygen decreases in such deep water depths of the sea. Because as we have been taught, 80% of oxygen is produced on the surface of the sea by plants, algae, phytoplants, and some bacteria through the process of photosynthesis. And then this oxygen gets dissolved in the deep layers below the sea, which keeps the marine life alive. That is, the amount of oxygen gradually decreases as we go into the deeper layers of the sea, because naturally all the fishes at the top use it. But what Andrew Sweetman saw in his research was very strange. Instead of the amount of oxygen decreasing, it was increasing rapidly in the depths of all the fishes. Now in some areas, they found more oxygen in the deep sea than even in the surface water. This observation was so weird that Andrew and his team could not believe it at first. They had to test it again using different measurement equipment and finally confirmed that yes, there is something in the dark depths of the sea that is producing this unknown oxygen, the dark oxygen. But how was this dark oxygen being produced, and how did it remain hidden from us till now? Are the strange creatures of the deep sea dependent on this dark oxygen? Does this dark oxygen have any role in the evolution of their life? All these questions started bothering Andrew. And then Andrew's attention went towards a very interesting observation. Do you remember in the beginning I had told Andrew about it? There was concern that the animals of the deep sea could be in danger. What was the reason? Because this Clarion-Clipperton Zone is a very famous area, specifically for deep sea mining. It is literally a money printing machine for billionaires, because according to research, trillions of dollars of metals and minerals are present in this area alone. If we evaluate them in numbers, the figure will be around $16 to $17 trillion. Just imagine, trillions of dollars worth in minerals are present here. The most in-demand metals are manganese, nickel, and cobalt, about 75% to 85% of which are found here from only one source. And that source is these small stones of the size and shape of a batata, polymetallic nodules. These stones are so unique that it takes millions of years for them to form. They are created by nature, obviously, during which they are formed, layer by layer. Metals and minerals slowly get deposited, and the interesting thing is that these rocks are spread over an area of 90 lakh square kilometers in the seafloor of this area, whose total quantity is about 100 crore tons. Was there any clue of oxygen hidden in these rocks? This question came to Andrew and his team, but who could answer this question? There was only one person who was the king of chemistry in the sea world, and also an old colleague of Andrew, Dr. Francis Geiger. After meeting Dr. Geiger, both the scientists decided that why don't we test this unique stone in our lab by creating an exact environment like the one at the bottom of the ocean? This will enable us to observe the behavior of these stones very carefully, and the oxygen and water will automatically become clean in front of our eyes. And that is why they immediately brought the same polymetallic nodules from the ocean floor and disinfected them with mercury chloride, so that if there is any oxygen-producing bacteria sitting on it, and it is actually producing oxygen, then it can be killed. And finally, by placing it in an airtight jar inside water, they recreated the exact environment of cold and salty water, and started tracking the oxygen levels, and exactly the same thing happened as was happening in the deep sea. Instead of decreasing, oxygen started increasing in that jar, and that too so much that it increased 3 times from the normal level. That is, now it has been at least proven that the source of oxygen gas in this new birth is not a plant or microorganism at all. The source of this oxygen is not biotic, but abiotic. So what was happening? How was a black rough stone breathing out oxygen? Well, now all that was needed was one last experiment that would finally turn Dr. Geiger's doubt into belief. But it was not going to be that easy for Dr. Geiger, because some big people who had to print billions were after these 2 scientists. Let us pause the story here for a while, and I want to ask you a question. Look, oxygen, which is literally our life, can be considered our soul? Were we born because of this gas? Or plants give birth to oxygen? So oxygen gave birth to life, or life gave birth to oxygen? Kind of like which came first, the chicken or the egg? Right. Look, you will be very surprised to hear this. The birth of the Earth, 4.5 billion years ago. Right. Life on Earth was first born 3.8 to 4.1 billion years ago, but sir, till just 2.4 billion years ago, we know how much was the amount of oxygen on Earth, 0.01%, and today it is 21%, and that is why today organisms like us are able to breathe and we are alive. So the question arises that what exactly happened on Earth 2.4 billion years ago, that it was as if an oxygen bomb exploded? Well, before understanding it, one thing is absolutely undeniable, that the oxygen explosion forced the organisms of the Earth to rapidly evolve and adapt, just like today's technological boom has forced companies to replace their manual systems and adopt smart systems. Just imagine, 2.7 billion years ago, the Earth looked exactly like an alien planet. Orange sky filled with thick methane and carbon dioxide, sea filled with sulfur and ions without oxygen. On its surface, some bacteria and microorganisms are thriving. Feasting on this chemical waste, a hero is born among the organisms grazing on this chemical waste. Who will change the fate of the Earth? Cyanobacteria. It has acquired such a genetic mutation that it got the ability to produce energy using sunlight and water, which we today call photosynthesis. But in this process, it started releasing oxygen gas as waste, which was the waste that stopped life on Earth. These organisms started multiplying rapidly in billions on the Earth. The amount of oxygen kept increasing as if every inch of the Earth's land and seas was breathing oxygen. This resulted in the rest of the organisms that grew in chemicals started dying because oxygen gas was poisonous for them. It was toxic because oxygen is extremely reactive, but this changing nature and situation gave birth to a new breed of organisms for whom this poisonous oxygen was nectar. Our microscopic ancestors were born, who then lived under the umbrella of this oxygen gas. Because oxygen gas also created the ozone layer in the upper atmosphere, under whose protection we kept on multiplying and evolving rapidly in all the forms and colors that we see today. Scientists called this event the Great Oxidation Event, and only after this, the Earth became the planet that we call home today. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and give us a chance to tell you more about researches in science. Stay tuned for part 2.